So this week, we enter our holiest of weeks. This week where everything else falls away and the great drama of our salvation is right there staring us in the eye. And the protagonist, let there be no mistake, the protagonist now is Jesus. And no matter how much all Lent we've been focusing on ourselves and thinking about how we want to get better and how we want to grow, now the one who is acting is Jesus. And Jesus is the one who saves. Jesus is the one who is faithful. Jesus is the one who, in the form of God, did not deem equality with God something to be grasped at, but emptied himself and took on our human form and bore all our human weaknesses, that we might be once again in loving communion with our God. He's the protagonist. He's the focus of everything. And how good we do to slow down and to focus on what he is doing. He's not heroic in that he's stronger than us. He's not somehow more magnificent than us. He is faithful and true to the God who loved him and called him and now asks him to walk this journey for and with us. Now we observe, but we're not passive observers. We do what we can. That beautiful line about the woman that anointed him at the very beginning of the reading, who went to the house where he was and took that precious perfume to anoint him before his death. And Jesus says, she's done what she could. I think about what she must have been doing up until then, what she must have been reflecting on, what she must have seen in Jesus and said, I can see he's doing this thing now, and he needs my hands to touch him with this gentle oil that touches him and prepares him for what he will go through and accompanies him on that journey. She's not the protagonist, but she does what she can. I think of that person who happened to be walking down the street when the disciples came into town to set up for the Last Supper, carrying that jar of water, probably completely unaware of what he or she was doing. But they led the disciples to that place where that final meal would be shared. How often we don't know what we're doing when we're carrying something or doing something, but we might be leading others to that place that will be holy for them, that place where salvation will be worked out for them. I think of Simon of Cyrene, wandering down the street, probably trying to mind his own business, but he's pressed into service to carry that cross with Jesus. Probably a worker, probably somebody strong enough they could tell that could carry things. And he did his part. He did what he could to carry that cross. He's not the protagonist. Jesus is the protagonist. But he does what he can by being attentive. Finally, I think of all of those at the final scene. Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of Joseph, so many other women, and Joseph of Arimathea, who had the presence of mind to say, this holy thing that is happening is worth, first of all, seeing, first of all, praying around, but then giving a dignified burial and to putting himself out, Joseph, to make sure that Jesus could be resting in a place that was sacred. See, each of these people, in the smallest of things, becomes part of Jesus' work of salvation. And so it is for us. And so it is for us in this week, when we walk with Jesus through each of the moments that will come up. I encourage you, if you've never come before, come on Holy Thursday, come on Good Friday, come on Holy Saturday, because there we see Jesus going about this work. We see Jesus sharing a meal with friends, washing the feet of his disciples, taking that long, lonely walk to Golgotha, dying there for us. But then, and this is the thing, we know how this story ends. It's what we celebrated when we walked in at the beginning, that our God saves, our God rises, and that we know we can depend on him. So we come during this week to be present. We come to be present to Jesus, but then we also come to be present to all the ways that Jesus is going through his passion in our world today. Who this week needs us to anoint them? Who this week needs us to carry something for them? Who this week needs us to see them and recognize them and ultimately to give them a place of peace where they can rest as well? The great drama of our salvation is underway. Jesus is the protagonist, but let us do what we can as we follow him to the cross and ultimately to his resurrection.